mobile money. So what we've done is to tap into that particular market by setting up a platform where member is able to self-register himself and then is able to start contributing. And by doing that again, we're able to give our members frequent communication in terms of how their money is growing. So we believe as a CPF, we have established platforms which are very, very important for the ordinary person to be able to save.
Mm-hmm. Now, talking about ordinary persons, there's the issue of sensitization and awareness that this is actually saving, or rather pension funds are not just for those in the formal sector. How is this going? How is this coming? How then does the informal sector come in, the Juakali sector? Yes, they can definitely come in a big way. As you realize, if you go back 10 years ago, there were very few people who knew about pension, or ideally when you looked at people who are saving, actually people who are in formal sector, yes. Which means they are contributing by virtue of their employers having established a pension fund where they have no choice other than to contribute. But if you look at the guys out there who have an option of not contributing, you will actually find that they've not been doing so. But there has been a lot of education in the sector, majorly driven by RBA and players such as ourselves, in order to educate members on the importance of saving. In fact, Regina, let me just shock you. I know KBC, of course, have a very wide coverage, so we'll be able to reach out to quite a large number of Kenyans. If let me give you a very hypothetical example. 3 people, assuming A, B, and C. We give them names, maybe Andrew, Bernard, and Cynthia. So assuming you have those 3 people, okay, each one of them is saving around 5,000 Kenya shillings per year. You have Andrew, who is basically a diligent saver. He saves his money 5,000, assuming they start at the age of 20 and they run all the way to 60 years. That is contribution for a period of 40 years. So if you look at Andrew, he will have contributed around 200,000 Kenya shillings by the time he hits 60. Yes. Assuming Bernard contributes for 10 years and then he stops, he will have basically contributed around 50,000 shillings. And then you have Cynthia, who at the age of 20 didn't think that it was important to start saving. So assuming it starts 10 years after, do you know the kind of benefits those 3 people will be having? Of course, the diligent saver, who is Andrew, who basically started and he became consistent, will be having, assuming an interest rate growth of around 7%, Andrew will be having around 1.1 million shillings at the age of 60. Bernard, who basically saved for 10 years and stopped, will basically have amassed around 600, yes, around 600. Yes. And then, shockingly, the person who started late with Cynthia, who started 10 years after, will actually, and he continued saving for another 30 years. That is at the age of, he started at the age of 30, contributed for 30 years. He will have actually amassed pension savings of 500 million. So you can imagine, Bernard, who only did it for 10 years, has actually more benefits than Cynthia. So that tells you the power of compounding and the importance of starting early. And that is a message which we really want to sink to the young people, that pension benefits and pension savings starts at an early age. Yeah, it's quite expensive to start late. Yeah. But then there's also that question to just try and change the dynamics. Yes, we are telling the youth that saving early, there's the issue of I'm not employed. Can you start saving for your retirement when you really do not have a stable source of income? It's actually possible. The biggest problem with our people is that they undermine the money they have. You find the guys in Juakali sector, you wake up in the morning, you go work, maybe what you've managed to get at the end of the day is 500 shillings. The challenge with our people is that they don't believe that is money which is worth saving. That person who is able to generate, even if it's 500 shillings per day, we have platforms where at the end of the day is able to deposit that money and leave it there to grow. So I think it's just a matter of a cultural issue. I think the aspect of you don't need to be in formal sector for you to contribute. Even if you are in informal sector, even if you contribute little by little amount on monthly basis,
that basically translates to millions of money by the time you are retiring.
Now, can you have more? Can you be in more than one pension?
Yes, it's allowed. It's allowed. It's allowed. Of course, the only limitation will be the issue of the tax benefit you probably enjoy, especially if you are in formal employment, which means the current regulations allow exemption from taxation up to amount of 20,000 on monthly basis. So anything above that is basically you don't enjoy any tax benefits. It will be taxed. But of course, if you are in informal sector, you know your money basically may not be having a lot of issues to do with the taxation at source. So in this case, it goes into what we call an unregistered account, which at the point of exit, you will basically enjoy, you will basically not be taxed, because the assumption is that that money had already been taxed at source. Yeah.
That's a technicality we're going to come back into. Now, focusing now to the formal sector. We have employers who fail to remit their pensions, the employee's pension.
Yes.
How are you dealing with it, or how do you deal with it now?
If you look at the regulations within the retirement benefits industry, if you look at Retirement Benefits Act, it provides for penalty for not remitting that contribution. And the penalty is quite very, very severe. It amounts to almost 5% of unremitted contributions on monthly basis. And then RBA again has been very strict in terms of some of those employers who deduct contribution, but they don't remit to the pension fund. Yeah, so it's a serious issue, which of course has attracted a lot of attention, especially from our regulator. So I think it's just a matter of time. You will see many, RBA will be catching up with many organizations, as well as also the trustees. Trustees have powers to even take the sponsor, the contributor, the sponsor, that is the employer, for failing to remit contribution. I mean, if you go to court, you can always get an order to compel that employer to remit contributions. So there are a lot of structures in place which can actually enforce aspect of collection. Yeah.
So members can seek redress, even through the court system.
Sure.
Now, we're all talking about COVID-19 disruptions. How then have they affected pension funds?
It has affected pension funds in a big way. I mean, if you look at the moment the first case was cited in Kenya, that was somewhere in March.
Yes.
By end of that quarter, that is quarter ended March, the Nairobi All Share Index had actually dipped by close to around 21%, which was quite huge. Essentially, what it means is that there was a massive erosion on the value of the assets which people were holding. That were listed. And then, of course, as a result of that, there has been a gradual recovery for the 2 quarters. That is a quarter ended June and September. But we still have that hole. I think we've made a recovery of around 6%. So we still have a hole of around 15%, which we are yet to recover. So there has been a significant impact on the pension sector. The other aspect also is issue of many employers have had to lay off people. The implication of that is that people have had to access their benefits. So as a result of that, of course, there has been massive withdrawals of benefits as a result of that. So there has been a significant impact on the pension industry. Of course, the fund managers are trying their best to make sure they come up with different strategies to mitigate the impacts of COVID-19.
Now, we've had the Ministry of Health saying that Kenya is currently riding the second wave of the COVID-19, and there's been talk, though unconfirmed, but government has continued saying that if push comes to shove, we might see, putting up stricter measures in as far as the economy
building.
Yes.
We are also we've also started exposing some of our assets to offshore investments, and then of course we are now relooking at the property space, which have also had a serious beating. I mean, you can imagine the rent concessions landlords have had to give in. So we are relooking at the property space with a view of trying to find out what are some of the areas where we can participate. And one of the areas we are looking at it very closely is this aspect of affordable housing. One of the if you look at the property market, one of the areas which have really been beaten is the properties at upmarket. But if you go to the down market, there's a bit of traction on that. Yes. So those are some of the areas which we are looking at very closely with a view of participation.
So in a nutshell, where does now the pension fund sector stand currently?
In terms of course, we were sitting at an asset base of around 1.3 trillion shillings. I know it has gotten a bit of beating. Maybe we are down by probably 100 to 200 billion, so we could be maybe down to 1.1. But of course, remember on monthly basis also employees continue to contribute. So I believe most likely before the end of this year, we'll be approaching figures of maybe 1.4 trillion shillings and really growing. And this is really assuming that the market pick up, especially towards the last quarter of this year.
Now, when I was asking you about the options that the pension funds sector is looking at, I've not heard you talk about looking at government securities and such. Quite peculiar when everyone is saying that this government would be, somewhere you want to invest in at this point. How so? Why the different, the divergent kind of outlook?
For sure, maybe it's something I didn't mention, but government securities is one of the safe haven which our fund managers and us as pension schemes are pursuing. But you only need to appreciate the fact that government can only borrow much. I mean, if you look at the latest bids from Central Bank of Kenya, we've had cases where there's oversubscription. And of course, when that happens, the money is returned back to you. So you can only do much on government securities because you cannot be sitting on too much piles of cash just waiting for government to maybe issue a bond or something like that. So it's a space which we will participate, but that may not be really that will be what we call a tactical strategy for the time being. But in terms of the long-term strategy, we'll be looking at what we call alternative asset classes.
Now let's move away from matters pension because we do not exist in an island or in isolation. Let's talk about matters of BBI. What do you think about it? Have you had an opportunity to get a copy? Have you read it? Or are you still weighing your options, Mr. Rono?
Maybe I'm one of those people who are still reading it.
Oh, you're still reading
I'm
it?
Still reading
so you
it,
have a copy at least?
Yes, I have a copy. We are studying the document because I want to tell you for sure issues of constitutional changes and dispensation really affect the market so much. And I think maybe I do agree with the president in one way, in the fact that if you look at even the performance in the market, every 5 years we always dip. Every 5 years we always dip. So I think it's high time we look at ways of correcting that. Part of it, of course, could be an aspect of maybe constitutional change. May not be very certain about that, but maybe it might help to a certain extent. But of course, the most important thing is to make sure that we empower the youth as a country. That is the most fundamental reason, because if these youths are empowered and we have a constitution where the benefits of leadership, the challenge we've always had in this country is that the moment someone becomes president, I mean, a lot of benefits to do with the fiscal policies, maybe allocation of resources, could be maybe biased towards that direction. But of course, you see, with the coming in of constitution, with the coming in of counties, counties are also getting equally the same resources. So I think it's just a balancing act of making sure that we have a progressive constitution. So I think it will be important for Kenyans to really study that document, look at what works for us, what doesn't work, of course, should be amended.
Very well said. We're still keeping up with current affairs. You came for a current affairs conversation on interview here on Good Morning Kenya. Now we are having our neighbor, Tanzania, has taken to the polls. as well as the semi-autonomous archipelago of Zanzibar. Now, we know President John Pombe Magufuli has been very vocal and he's running for a re-election. Studying Tanzania as an investment area and in light of what is happening within the elections, what's your take? Your opinion, purely your opinion.
My opinion, of course, I know Magufuli has really tried to maybe stabilize the country, try to change the culture, especially the narrative around good governance. I know he's tried maybe to do that, especially on matters corruption. But of course, one of the things which definitely needs to do is expanding the democratic space. What we found out in many countries where democracy is really not opened up, it basically become something which basically hits up after some times, and you see a country can just move in any direction. So I think democracy is important, and I think that is where we've made significant progress as a country, that is Kenya. There's really a lot of very open democracy in this country. I mean, you can wake up one morning, you say anything, and really nobody comes for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
that is very, very
we have
important.
not gone back to the 80s and the 90s where
can you imagine?
You couldn't say nothing.
You couldn't say anything,
or
I
you
tell
could
you.
also, those guys in government got fired during lunchtime. Lunchtime is lunch hour.
You can imagine.
You go back to the office, it's no longer your office.
Exactly.
No.
So that kind of democracy where people are so suppressed may not be sustainable.
Yes.
It could only work for some times, but it's a matter of time. Yeah.
What I'm hearing from you is like, let's wait and see. Now, parting shot in as far as saving for retirement is concerned, as we come to a close, Mr. Rono.
My parting shot is particularly for the youth. I really want to encourage them to save for retirement. And the time to start is now. I've already talked about the power of compounding. I also want to encourage youth because we have platforms which has already been established in the market. For us as CPF, we have a CPF and pension, which is able to accommodate anybody walking out there in the streets and he wants to save. So I do encourage them. There are also other registered personal pension schemes with the Retirement Benefits Authority. So there are many options which are available in the market. So
if one wanted to get to understand what this is happening, at what platform, how would we get to know? The website or so?
Yes. You can get more information, especially about CPF from our website, cpf.or.ke. You can also get us on our Facebook pages at CPF Kenya. We're also on Twitter. We encourage people to follow us on that. We're also on LinkedIn. So we are basically in all the social media pages. So we'll be able to keep disseminating information which are very critical for purpose of pension savings. Yeah.
Thank you very much. We've been talking about matters of saving for retirement. My guest this morning has been Mr. Joseph Rono there, who is the CPF Group Director, Strategy and Investment. Parting shot is you do not have to wait until you're too old to save for your retirement, that you can save as a youthful person towards a prosperous retirement. And in as far as the informal sector is concerned, well, there's so many products out there. You just need to know what works for you, get that information and save for the future. Joseph Rono, thank you very much. Thank you for your time. Thank you for, coming on board.
Thank you.
Now we take a short break, but when we come back, we're still going to be focusing on matters of lifestyle as well as looking at matters of politics at a time when BBI reactions are still rife. I'm Regina Manyara. I wish you a great day ahead.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
Would have thought that Roxana would get us together again.
I owe her.
Julio. So how are your kids? And Virginia? Did she come with you? Huh?
What is this? What did you do to Fabiola that she doesn't even want to see you, huh?
In love with Ramon.
Let us sing with Paris Sunday.
cultures struggle to cohabit.
Because I'm not going to stand here and be compared to some...
Hey, Nancy, don't try me.
As the coastal vacation brings Nancy and Joe closer.
Nancy, you are full of surprises. What would you like me to do for you this morning?
Or will it be?
Now, can you give us some space?
No. He? Unaona hii? Ni usherati.
Watch your mouth, Mother Teresa.
Or what?
This game that you and Nancy are playing.
Na nyinyi mmekuwa akina nani kuingilia mambo ya wazazi wenu?
Springed, making a comeback. Hotter.
Just gonna stand there and stare at us?
How do you think things will end up here?
This is a conversation between your father and I.
Sometimes it would be good if you would just stand your ground.
Wait, mtoto, wait. What happens between me and Mama Paul is none of your business.
Bolder.
You know Mama Paul is leaving you.
So what?
What?
I'm done being your puppet and dancing to your tune and manipulation.
We called the clients and told them that we're going to shut this down. Are better for pedestrians as well as for vehicles, both public and private, and not just here in Nairobi, but also in different parts of the country, different towns, different counties as well. And so this is just actually Mombasa. There's still an ongoing works in regards to expanding, major roads in this specific city. At least a couple of them have already been complete. One around Makupa area, which is what I'll be showing you just in a bit, trying to see how, that completion has been, at least how it has been impacting traffic. Also, what they're doing is ensuring that at least the roads that, the one carriage roads are expanded to at least dual carriage roads in different parts in this city. And at least what they've said is that this specific project will take a period of about 4 years. They haven't said when it will commence in the areas in which they haven't yet started, but at least more of what we know is that it will take a period of 4 years to complete the entire project. It's actually a multi-billion project here in the city of Mombasa. And, the key reason as to why they are expanding this major roads in Mombasa town is because, first of all, just the obvious reasons to reduce on the traffic flow, because again, it is also one of those, very, very big cities, quite a number of activities in that specific area. And the number two reason is because of transportation. Yes, and this is inclusive of transportation of goods from different parts just around the city. So I just want us to look at traffic in this specific area. Try to see if whatever that expansion is serving its purpose, and this in regards to traffic reduction or the traffic reduction flow on that specific area. Now, what I was showing you earlier is this area which is around Makupa area, and this is the Makupa roundabout. And now look at this; it's so unlike what we'd see in Nairobi, because I can tell you for sure around this hour in Nairobi city or Nairobi town, the roundabouts, in fact major roundabouts just like this one, the kind of traffic sometimes tends, not even sometimes, but actually all the time or even oftentimes around major roundabouts tends to be really unbearable. But look at this one, just moving at a really fast pace. That has been well indicated by the green color there, which just means that there's no traffic at all, moving really fast. So this is around the Makupa roundabout, which just branches off to major roads, just like how it is on other roundabouts even here in Nairobi. Look at this specific one branching off to Mombasa Road on the other side, still in Mombasa County, and also just coming all the way through the same road, which is again Mombasa Road, and also just branching off to other major roads still again on the same town. And it looks like nothing is really changing in regards to traffic, the heavy kind of traffic, just a smooth sailing on both ends. So again, it means that if you're coming to the city there's just a smooth sailing for you, and also if you're leaving the city going about the estates, again just a really smooth sailing for you. However, traffic begins to slightly build up actually as of now as you branch off from the roundabout heading through Tomboya Road on the other side, still again in Mombasa town, just as you head over to that specific road. That's just where traffic begins to slightly build up around the roundabout. But again, on better parts or on major parts along this road, moving at a really fast pace, barely any kind of heavy kind of traffic gridlock. So that's how it's looking like on that specific end. Again, also just leaving the roundabout, coming through the other lane as you head over to the police station there. Also just traffic beginning to slightly build up just before you leave the roundabout. But on the other lane, so as you are coming to the estates there, also moving at a really fast pace, which is again also just what we normally expect to see, because oftentimes again, if you are coming to the estates, you're leaving the major cities in whatever towns,
In the early morning hour, the kind of traffic at least usually is it's either manageable or no kind of traffic because there's no activities as you're heading over to the estates. However, if you're leaving the estates, coming to these towns, to the city, then again, just what you're seeing is what you'd expect to see. So yes, there's traffic, but at least a manageable kind of traffic. So again, it just means that, this ongoing works or even the completed works in major parts in this city, at least it is serving its purpose, because one of those reasons was to reduce on the traffic flow, and it looks like that is really just coming along well. So that is how it's looking like in terms of traffic. I'm seeing also a bit of a gridlock next to Ronald Ngala Road. Again, if you leave that specific roundabout. Now, the reason that's why we're looking at this roundabout is because in the different parts in which this expansion of this roads actually is happening, this is that one where it lit and opened up to the public. So this is why we're looking at it to just try and see if at all it is serving its purpose in terms of traffic reduction flow. And it looks like, yes, that is coming along well, because the major parts around this area, then it's moving at a really fast pace just on specific areas where there's a heavy kind of traffic. As you leave the roundabout coming to Ronald Ngala Road on the other side, that's just where traffic looks like it's really building up and heavy kind of traffic there. But at least on really good parts around this area, moving at a really fast pace, and that has been well indicated by the green color there. So that's how it's looking like this morning when it comes to traffic. Our focus being on in Mombasa city, simply because, again, like I mentioned, of the ongoing works. There are still some slated works that are expected to continue in this city, and this is in regards to just expanding this road to making them being a dual carriage road, at least for ease of traffic flow and better transportation of goods as well as pedestrians.
Good morning, and thank you so much for being a part of Good Morning Kenya this far. My name is Samuel Njoroge, and it's now time to look into the political activity in the country, key among them, BBI. Since it was officially launched to the public on Monday, we've seen quite a lot of developments, and we expect the same moving forward. House leadership will be having a retreat this weekend to strategize on the way forward. We've seen the bid to have a non-contested referendum in the wake of the BBI. And also, we are expecting the House to resume next week, or to be recalled next week, in a bid to discuss some of the issues that require legislation around the BBI, key among them the referendum bill. We invite your comment, your questions, and your contribution to the show. The hashtag is Good Morning Kenya at KBC Channel 1 and at Sam W. Njoroge. My panelists for this conversation is Dr. Rotich, who's right here with us in studio. Daktari, karibu sana to the program.
Thank you, Sam.
And joining us via Zoom, we've got Alex Manyasi. Manyasi, good morning. Thank you for joining us. Nice, there you are. So I'll begin with you, Dr. Rotich. Since this document was handed over to the public on Monday, what has been your take on it this far?
I think since the launch, if I may call it, there is now, what you can read in the public domain, the discussion that went on during the launch actually causes more confusion than giving the direction on the way forward of the PPI. Why I'm saying so is because the happenings at the Bomas, as it was organized, as it was arranged, you could see that the majority of those people who came to Bomas are mainly those people who supported from the very beginning. And when the Deputy President came up with a varying view as to the approach on issues to do with the inclusivity, on the issues to do with the independence of the judiciary, on the issues to do with the ombudsman, all these things seems to have brought everything into a disarray. Because the center of discussion now, as it is that if these very pertinent issues were not included in the first case, then the document is bound to be opposed by the majority of Kenyans.
Yeah. Alex, if you can hear me kindly, let us know what you think about this document since it was released to the public.
Yeah, thank you, and good morning to all Kenyans. I want to say that this has been a long discussion. For those who have been around this country for the last 1 year or so, the BBI discussion has been ongoing. The team went around the country getting or seeking or soliciting for views from Kenyans with regards to what they wanted to see changed. And having said that, if you look at the views that most people gave, most of the people had concerns about several aspects of our constitution. And partly and largely, people are concerned about corruption, for example.
Now, changing the structure of the country's governance.
The executive.
The executives. That one requires a referendum. And majorly, if you saw, the most thorny issue that has been witnessed by Kenyans is the issue about the take it all scenario that we have witnessed in the past. So what this PPI was trying to bring on board is an election that will not bring whatever we have been witnessing in the past.
Yeah.
But you see, looking also by what has been presented by the PPI, it is not really answering the problem. The PPI, the proposal that the Prime Minister should be coming from the winning party, and then the President and the Deputy President coming from the same. Now, where will you put the rest? That is how, why the Deputy President actually posed the question.
Yeah.
How could it be possible that the issue of inclusivity has been considered?
All right.
So that is something that will remain to be contested. And of course, I can say, when I looked at the Deputy President actually explaining in depth about the issue of inclusivity, it went beyond a party. It went beyond his relationship with the ODM, because it brought in an issue that was the main idea of forming the PPI, the issue of take it all. And you can remember when the head of state visited Nyanza some time back, he expressed that this idea of take it all, we must disown it.
But you make a valid point right there, but we'll move into the attempt to quell the rebellion that may come around with the BBI. Alex, how best can we achieve this, to quelling the rebellion that may come around with this document?
Yeah, and that goes back to the original question you asked about having a non-contested referendum. Because the dissent can only be quelled by making sure that there's consensus among the opposing and the opposition and the proponents of the document. And the way to do that is to find a common ground and agree that this is going to be the document that will send to Kenyans, and therefore all of us are going to support it. For those of us who've been around this country, we know, for example, a referendum can easily be a mini election, in the sense that for those who are against the document, if they win the day, then the possibility of them winning the next election is very high. And those who are pro the document, if they win the referendum, then the possibility of them winning the next election is also very high, because that can be used to gauge how powerful or how weak certain people are. And so, and this has been seen before, even in our history, in terms of the first time there was a proposal to change the constitution, and that brought about the orange and the banana.
Yep.
And so sometimes it's important, for the sake of the country, and we know our country very well, and we know our politics. It's important that we have a scenario where the president tries as much as possible to get to a point where he can actually bring the other players together. But like Rotich said, I think it might be difficult, especially if the proposals are a do or die for certain groupings. But in what I'm seeing today, I do not see how the proposals as proposed, first of all, can be so bad such that we cannot agree as a country on what we need to see.
All right.
But at the same time, from what has been proposed, in my view, I do not see how different the life of Kenyans will be unless we interrogate some of the proposals that have been given.
All right, gentlemen, we've been here before, and I'm making reference to the year 2002, when Mwai Kibaki took over power, and he promised to deliver a constitution within 100 days. That did not happen. It took him 8 years to actually deliver this particular promise, and similar fear has been cast on the BBI process. The question now being, what timelines are we looking at when it comes to the implementation plan? What should guide this discourse, Dr. Rotich?
I think, Mr. Sam, if you could listen well about those who have been actually walking behind or pushing the BBI to be done before the election, they are saying that what we are trying to implement that which will come up during the next election. Because whatever is proposed in this PBI will be implemented in the next election. So there will be, if we have to go the way the proponents of the same are actually saying, it means that we must do this PBI before the next election.
But it's urgent that happens.
But you see, this is something that the majority of Kenyans are actually eyeing to know, because many people are now proposing, they are coming up and saying, can you give us the timeline? Who was supposed to give the timeline? Is it the people, the committee who have been sitting all along with bringing up the same document? Or it is the president himself and Right Honorable Raila to come up with a timeline?
But in all honesty, Dr. And Alex, I'm coming to you in just a bit. Would it be healthy to go into a general election with a pending referendum on the BBI? Would it be healthy for the country?
It will not be healthy. It will not be healthy. But if this PPI actually is meant to address the anomalies that we have witnessed in the past, it means that it is a must that this PPI should be held before the election. And that is why most of the people are actually reasoning that way. If you overheard about the many people who addressed the nation during the launching of the PPI, most of them say that this thing is possible, it should be done, and it should be done before the next election. And if we have to address the issues that we witnessed in the years back during elections, I think PPI came as a healing process. But you see, it is very difficult now that we are talking about the PPI, which these people have not agreed upon.
Right.
And agreeing upon means that they must build up the consensus and say, yes, this is the kind of document that we want to pass.
Okay.
And the only way to do that, I believe, Mr. Sam, is it is for His Excellency the President to call his team and say, yes, look, this is what we want to do with this short span of time. We want to agree on this so that we can be able to go to the referendum.
He has already said that. He has already said that before his term is over, he wants to leave a united country.
But that is the legacy that the president would wish to leave.
And one of the ways he intends to do that is by having this report implemented. So in that statement by itself, there's already an existing timeline. Let me get the thoughts of Alex. Alex, how do we shape and craft the conversation around timelines when it comes to implementation of the BBI?
So the timelines will be determined by the process through which this is supposed to go through. And as you're aware, for example, the collection of signatures, verification by IEBC, and IEBC needs to have been reconstituted by then, and then that same going to the county assemblies, and then that passes. So the process is basically determined by number one, the process. The timelines are determined, number one, by the process through which the document is to go through. That's one. But two, the same is also going to be determined by the agency by which this document is supposed to be handled. And that in itself, you have mentioned one thing, which is it needs to be done before the next election. And because it needs to be done before the next election, you cannot have this referendum happening a few months to the election, for example. So you want it to be done at least a year before the next election. Why you want it that way is because there are certain pieces of legislation that will also need to be put in place to operationalize the changes that will have been done to the Constitution before the election. So if you think about it that way, then, like I said, you need to do this at least a year to the election so that you also give Parliament time to legislate in terms of operationalization of the Constitution, so that when you hold the election, then the things that you want done are actually in place for purposes of implementation. Because ultimately, if you're talking about pushing more money to the counties, you're talking about reforms within the judiciary, you're talking about the ombudsman, you're talking about many aspects of, for example, if the aspect of taking more money to the counties, if you're talking about getting money to the wards, then how that is operationalized also needs to be looked into. So you do not want to set a stage where you change the Constitution and then you do an election, then there's no framework or legislation that has been done by Parliament. Then we take another 2 or 3 years trying to figure out how to implement the Constitution. Then that creates chaos after the election, and you really want to do that. That's how I look at it.
And also on that breath, you remember what the Senate's Majority Whip, Irongo Kangata, said, that they will be heading, this House leadership will be heading in for a retreat beginning this Sunday. And he also touched on the issue of timelines, saying that we don't have legal timelines, only political ones. All right? And that statement, we shall be weighing on it right here on the show, as well as inviting your views on this particular discussion at KBC Channel 1, hashtag Good Morning Kenya, at Sam W. Njoroge. Let's also look into the IEBC, the proposed reforms of this institution by the BBI, as opposed to what the chair of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, Wafula Chebukati, is now proposing. And the all contentious issue so far, the office of the Ombudsman, and the recommendations that have been made in as far as that particular office is concerned. We'll be looking into that and much more immediately after this break. Stay with us.
No one is killing anyone here.
I would if I were in her shoes.
What are you doing? Wait, she's here. Can you stop laughing and help Farah out of that mess?
Classmates, every Saturday on KBC.
Welcome back to the program. And just to be clear, the show, that is Good Morning Kenya, and the Viewpoint does not in any way purport to hold the view or brief of any politician. The discussion here is objective, voice and opinion is welcome. However, it does not represent the view or stand of any politician. We simply look at it comprehensively and objectively. This is Good Morning Kenya. My name is Samuel Njoroge at KBC Channel 1, at Sam W. Njoroge and hashtag The Viewpoint. That is the show that is currently on air, and we welcome your views on this particular discussion that I'm having with Alex Manyasi and Dr. Rotich. Gentlemen, thank you for your time this far. And let's take a look at an emerging issue with the BBI, and that is the Office of the Ombudsman. The changes recommended to that particular office as per the BBI report. What's your take? What's your viewpoint, Dr. Rotich?
I think the issue of ombudsman, it's originally supposed to be independent. It's supposed to be independent of all the influences. And as it is, it was the appointment of those who are seated in that office were actually from the Treasury. But this time, the PPI actually proposing that the proposed team who will be in that office should be appointed by the president. And by the look of things, majority of the people are looking at it that the independence of the ombudsman will not be independent anymore if it will be put under the influence of somebody. So, and that is why some of the dissenting voices were saying this ombudsman should be able to be independent, objective in its operation, and should stand by what the people they are expecting them to be. But as it is proposed now, once it is under a particular office, especially the executive office, of course, people are guessing that the independence of the ombudsman may not be actually realized. So those who are opposed to it and those who are actually proposing the same, they are arguing that where it was, but of course I know many Kenyans also had proposed that this thing should be changed because the office of the ombudsman has not been fighting for some time now. And that is why Kenyans were of the opinion that, some opinions were saying this thing should be taken from this office to the other appointing office. But according to me, I think what the majority of Kenyans should be, what we should consider is what the majority of Kenyans actually propose to be.
Okay.
So it should be open to discussion. It should be open to the same dissenting and then proposing, supporting voices.
Yeah.
But finally, Kenyans will decide where that thing will rest. But the issue is, it has to be independent.
Okay. Alex, what's your view on what the debate that is currently ongoing around the office of the ombudsman?
I want to approach it from a different viewpoint.
Yeah.
And my viewpoint is this. It just explains how far we are as a country, and in terms of our democracy, in terms of the way we choose our presidents, the way we choose our politicians. Kenyans are very interesting people in the sense that they will elect a president and then not trust the president. They will elect a member of parliament and not trust a member of parliament.
Mm-hmm.
And so you start wondering where these people are picked from, and yet it's the same Kenyans who elect them. In the US today, although that is a mature democracy, if you elect Trump, then you know that he's a conservative. Trump has the power to nominate members into the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court, not just a lower court. And that way, when he sends those names and they go to the Senate for endorsement, that bench, you can be sure, like we have just witnessed this week with the latest nomination, is that that bench is 100%, is almost 70% conservative. And therefore, the Americans are going to live with a conservative bench for the next almost 20 years. Mm-hmm. And that means that the ideology of the president, when voted in by the people, is actually taken all the way in terms of implementing what his ideologies are. When it comes back home, we elect a president and then we say that we do not expect or trust a president to make nominations.
Yeah.
And therefore, when the office of the ombudsman comes up, the president is supposed to make the nomination and then he's supposed to go to the House for approval. It's the same process, just like what Trump is doing.
Mm.
And so what that office is supposed to do is to check any excesses through the complaints that Mwananchi will bring in terms of issues that go to the judiciary. So if you have a problem that your case is taking too long, or you think that there's corruption, or you think that you have not been handled properly by the judiciary, then you go to that office for assistance. Now, what that means is you can look at it in two ways. Way number one is think about it from the objective part of it and say, if the judiciary, you're going to bring a complaint against the judiciary, then of course the person you're bringing that complaint to, it makes sense for that person not to be in the judiciary. But you can also choose to look at it from the other way, which is be pessimistic, for example, and say, if you're going to bring complaints against the judiciary through the ombudsman who has been appointed by the president, whom we have decided not to trust, then that person is going to be biased. But in my own objective view, that could be true, but that may also not be true in the sense that if there are complaints that are going to be brought against a judge, then the process and the legislative framework that exists should be that there must be a process that will be followed in exercising, for example, the investigation that will go through a process to ensure that when you bring a complaint, it's just not a complaint that is supposed to remove a judge, for example. And my imagination is that the process of removal of judges, for instance, is going to be elaborate. And so whichever way you want to look at it, that's how I will frame my response to that.
All right. Fair point and made thoroughly. So, Daktari, what do you think of the IEBC rather, and how it has been so far, and the proposals that have been made within the BBI to reform it?
I think going by the past experience, we have had problems of trusting the independence of the IEBC. And the originality of IEBC is that it has to be independent of all sorts of influence, because they are handling a very sensitive issue. They are handling an election. They are handling issues that will determine the life of Kenyans. So in this case, their independence it's actually an issue that is not debatable. They have to be independent. And if it is proposed that those who will be handling or being in these offices should be people who will be appointed or selected by parties. And by parties by origin, they are partisan. They have the parties have their own ideologies, they have their own approach, they have their own interest.
Yeah.
And entrusting them with the responsibility of appointing an independent body like Electoral Commission, I think to me it may be partisan, because we may be having about 30 parties, because we are a democratic setup. If we have 30 parties in place, how will you determine who will now appoint and who will not appoint? Yeah. Will it be through a consensus? Will it be through an election? If it is appointment, who will appoint? So this is something that will bring a lot of confusion, because we have several, small parties that will also have the interest in putting up the IEBC. I believe the appointments of those who will be sitting in that office, those who will manage our electoral process, must be as independent as possible.
Independence is key at the end of
it. It is actually key.
Right. Let's move on to Alex. What's your take on this matter, the IEBC?
I keep referring to, for those of us who've been in this country, and I'll say that again, independence of the IEBC. Number one, let me dash your hopes by saying that there's nothing called independence in Kenya today. And even if you set up a select committee to select people or to interview people, and if for example the executive wanted to interfere, they will still do that. So in my view, the entire issue of independence is something that we have talked about for a long time, but it may be a mirage for just to say the least. However, on the flip side of it, fairness is not just supposed to be said as to be fairness, but it also must be seen to be shown in terms of the process that it takes. The issue of the
going to enable the BBI see the light of day. I'd like to come to you, Dr. Rotich. As Parliament debates, as Parliament considers the quality of legislation that should go into empowering this document, what should be their priority areas?
I think the most important thing, Sam, is for the Parliament to consider the dissenting voices. What is it that was not included, or what is not clear in the current PPI, or what has been captured by the current PPI? Because the moment they come out with a document that is balanced, that has actually considered all the dissenting voices, bringing on board their aspiration, their ideas, and their proposals, I think that will be the beginning of actually shortening the time frame of actually going for a referendum. And that is why I do consider that they must be able to build a consensus. Those people who are actually those who are championing for the early implementation, or rather of coming up with a referendum, they should also be able to listen. They should be able to consider other views, so that so as to reduce the pressure that is filing on those who are actually dissenting. The most important thing, consensus means we build up a way of agreeing together to some point. It may not be 100% agreement, but we must agree to something. And let me tell you, Mr. Sam, we are talking about the constitution of the land, which is actually the life of Kenyans. It should not be just taken for granted, just because of time frame, just because of the time that is so short, we have to pass it that way. No, that is what we did before the promulgation of the 2010 Constitution. That is the mistake that we did. We said, yes, there were 25% which were supposed to be been considered. And then later, wacha tupitishe, alafu tuangalie mbele. Now it has taken us about 10 years before the same problem cycle is fixed. So we don't want to be so much on a hurry to the level that we forget that there are issues that are pertinent that must be considered before it is actually passed. And let me tell you, where this thing, where the PPI now is, I believe experts should come in. Experts should come in so that they are able to interpret and analyze line by line to the people of the Republic of Kenya, because we are not all that educated to the level that we can get what is actually what most of the captures actually mean and means to the lives of Kenyans. So I believe the experts, those who are actually the makers of the Constitution, should come up and elaborate in depth as to what we actually means by inclusivity, what we actually means by ombudsman, what we actually means by having an independent judiciary, what we have and let me tell you, so long as we are yet to realize the independence of the legislative, independence of the executive, independence of the judiciary, we may not realize all these dreams. What we need is to have a Kenya that is built on trust and the constitution of the land.
All right, and I would like to deviate a bit from matters BBI and look into the tenure of the Chief Justice, that is David Maraga. Now, the Judicial Service Commission could not agree on a mechanism that could, one, protect the country from a crisis as and when he retires in 2021, come January the 12th, when he turns 70. And this is yet another issue that is being discussed right here in the country, and we would like to see or hear the viewpoint of Alex Manyasi on this matter. Alex?
Njoroge, there has been hula baloo around the retirement of the Chief Justice. And in my view, I do not understand why that is a big deal. Even though if you look at the former CJ, when he retired, he actually retired 1 year into his retirement, and therefore he set the stage for the replacement to happen way before his retirement had arrived. However, the CJ retirement is at 70. He takes his terminal leave in December this year, and he retires, I think, in January on some dates. Even if someone wanted to start the process now, it's just about 2 months. So first of all, I'm having difficulty understanding where the urgency is, unless the urgency has everything to do with Mwilu, for example, taking over as CJ for the period. If that is the only reason why there's a hurry to replace him, then I will understand. Otherwise, I do not understand, because the law is clear. The CJ retires, and then you start the process. The DCJ takes up the mantle until you get a replacement. So that is basically what I have difficulty understanding why we have, because there's no vacuum at this point in time.
Alex, just to interject, you see, he's taking his terminal leave in December ahead of his resignation come January the 12th. And pundits argue that owing to some of the allegations that have been leveled against the Deputy Chief Justice, that is Philomena Mwilu, and the whole process of 6 months without a CJ at a time when we are looking at a critical issue as a constitutional reform could actually create a somewhat crisis, if not a problem. What's your take on that, very quickly?
You see, Sam,
yes.
It's the same argument I have. If there are allegations of corruption against the DCJ, and the same has not been successful in making sure that she is removed from office, and then we should just swallow the bitter pill and say, we have been unable to remove her from office, and therefore she's going to act as CJ. So, and again, she's going to act as CJ for just about 6 months. So we are not having an election in the next 6 months, such that you say, for example, in the event of contestation. Because you see, the Supreme Court, the major reason why the Supreme Court has to be properly constituted, for example, is if you have a contest in terms of an election, a presidential election, then they have to come in. But you see, we will have another CJ by that time. And so for me, it makes sense in terms of the argument of saying that there are issues against the DCJ. But at the same time, as a country, the prosecution team in this country and everybody else, they have been unable to do that.
Right.
And so it in my view, yes, there are allegations, but it's neither here nor there as long as that has not been done, as long as she's not been removed. By law, she still will be the one to take over that office. So I do not think that it's right to say because she has issues against her, then she should not step in that office for 6 months.
Okay. Dr. Rotich.
I think the issue of early planning is very, very important. We are in a country that we know ourselves, and CJ is the president of the judiciary. And this is a very important person, a key person in all our justice system. So having a vacuum in that office for even 1 month or even a day, it is actually very, very delicate. It's a very delicate balancing. So I'm for early planning. If you plan 6 months before the retirement date, it doesn't harm anything because the time frame is very clear. It is known that this time, this month, this day, Maraga will retire. And that is not, it should not come as an accident. And we are not planning anything bad, or the country is not planning, or those who are proposing of early planning for the same, they are not doing any harm to anybody. So, in my own view, Mr. Sam,
yes,
early planning is key so that recruitment can start. You know, recruitment will take a lot of time, and it will take another maybe 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. So during all this time, we shall be having a vacuum, which should not be necessary. So early planning means that we shall really solve the problem at the nip, at the point. So I'm for the opinion that if it is possible, planning in anything that you are doing is key to success. If you fail to plan, you are planning to fail. That is what I'm saying. So you cannot say we will plan when we are there. When we know definitely by this time, by this date, Maraga will be out of office. Why don't we plan before that time comes so that we can be able to have somebody in place when he retires? I think that is what that is my take.
Right. The referendum bill is an issue that Parliament is expected to look into in as far as guiding the country around the conversation of a possible referendum. And I'd like to get the thoughts of Alex Manyasi very fast. What should be guiding the legislative framework around the referendum bill, which is currently being debated in Parliament?
I guess the most important part is to have a framework that guides how a referendum should be handled. I think in a nutshell, that is all that is important. And therefore, Parliament, of course, as a retreat, they need to fast track that, because you cannot have a referendum before the referendum bill becomes an act. And so what I would say is that Parliament needs to enhance, prioritize, let me say, use that word, prioritize some of the bills, and the referendum bill is one of them. I think the IEBC bill has already been, has gone through the process, and therefore should be ascended to soon. I think it went through the Parliament, it went through the Senate, and should be ascended to soon. So in terms of the focus should be more of what is it that needs to be put in place to ensure that if a referendum happens, then it's smooth sailing. And the third thing that needs to be looked into beyond the bills is to making sure that there are finances or resources to enable a referendum to actually happen. And then lastly, of course, making sure that IEBC is properly constituted in the sense
KBC, in collaboration with the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development, is broadcasting enhanced out-of-class learning on radio, television and online. Catch the lessons every weekday on KBC Channel 1 from 2 to 4 p.m. on KBC English Service and 15 FM from 9:15 a.m. to 5 p.m. and Radio Taifa from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. KBC English Service, Radio Taifa and 15 FM are also available countrywide on the free-to-air Signet digital TV platform, or log on to www.kbc.co.ke for live streaming, or download the KBC Online app on Google Play Store. Kenya Broadcasting Corporation, ensuring learning no matter what.
Two lionesses struggle to cohabit.
Because I'm not going to stand here and be compared to some...
Hey, Nancy, don't try me.
As the coastal vacation brings Nancy and Joe closer.
Nancy, you are full of surprises. What would you like me to do for you this morning?
Or will it be?
Now, can you give us some space?
No. Hii, unaona hii? Ni usherati.
Watch your mouth, Mother Teresa.
Or what?
This game that you and Nancy are playing.
Na nyinyi mmekuwa akina nani kuingilia mambo ya wazazi wenu?
Stringed, making a comeback. Hotter.
Just gonna stand there and stare at us?
How do you think things will end up here?
This is a conversation between your father and I.
Sometimes it would be good if you would just stand your ground.
Wait, Mtoto, wait. What happens between me and Mama Paul is none of your business.
Bolder.
You know Mama Paul is leaving you.
So what?
What?
I'm done being your puppet and dancing to your tune and manipulation.
We called the clients and told them that the court has shut us down.
Only on KBC Channel 1. Fridays at 8:30 p.m.
All right, time for our last traffic link this Wednesday morning. And just to recap for our viewers, what you are doing today is a quick look on what is happening in Mombasa City in terms of what they're just doing this in regards to reconstruction as well as expanding of these roads. Before we briefly take a look at the traffic there. So actually around this area, around the Makupa area, this is at least one of those roads or areas in which the different bodies designated to at least make our roads look better, where they've already completed this project. And this is in regards to the expansion of this road, just from one carriage road all the way to a dual carriage road. So this is what they are actually doing, expanding most of these roads because of key reasons. One of them being reduction of traffic flow, and the number two reason is because of transportation, and this is the transportation of goods, at least to make it easy for that transportation of goods. They haven't said when the project will commence, and this is in regards to the different areas where they haven't yet started, but at least what we know is that this is a multi-billion project and it's expected to take a period of 4 years. So what I'm just showing you is the area that is already complete. and opened up to the public. Also, what will be inclusive in this project, just, as usual, it will be inclusive of the NMT, which is an unmotorized transport system, inclusive of cyclist lanes as well as pedestrian walkways. There'll be footbridges, proper drainage system installed. And these are different projects being done by Kura and Kenha, not just here in Nairobi, but also extending it further, different parts of the country, different cities, different counties as well. So I want us to look at the traffic flow of this specific area, try to see if at all it is serving its purpose. If you can remember, earlier on, or the first couple of links we looked at are just around Makupa area. At least it was green all through, meaning that there was no traffic at all, moving at a really fast pace. So just as I mentioned, what now we are seeing is, the traffic flow of that specific area, which is around Makupa roundabout, which branches off to Mombasa Road on the other side, still in Mombasa city, and also going away still on the same road, which is again Mombasa Road, branching off to Tomboya Road on the other side. So again, it's one of those busy roundabouts. And just as we'd expect, roundabouts to be looking like in whatever part of the country, in whatever area, given the fact that roundabouts connects to a number of roads. Some could be major, some could be minor, as well as some sleep roads. And it is no different from this specific one. But again, it looks like in terms of traffic, it is not that bad. I can tell you for sure, especially here in Nairobi, when you look at roundabouts at this hour, the kind of traffic really unbearable. But it just looks like, this process, given the fact that this is already that area in which the reconstruction is complete and already opened up to the public, it looks like it is just serving its purpose in terms of reduction of the traffic flow, because yes, in as much as there's traffic throughout the entire roundabout, but it is a manageable kind of traffic. And just looking at this colors, the orange there, that is what it means. So anytime you see orange, it just means that yes, there's traffic, but at least it's traffic that is moving, so it's not at a standstill. So again, it also means that if you're coming from the estates, they are alike, you'll have to do the traffic just near the roundabout. But away from there, as you head over through Mombasa Road on the other side, going to the estates, just a smooth sailing, which is also what you'd expect to see, because as you leave, the major cities or even major towns, heading over to the estates in the early morning hour, there's barely any kind of traffic because there's no activities leaving city centers or major towns. But coming through Tomboya Road, away from the roundabout, traffic just beginning to slightly build up, and this is actually on both lanes, meaning as you leave the roundabout, heading over through Tomboya Road on the estates, as well as also leaving that specific route, coming through the roundabout. But yes, in as much as there's traffic, but it is still a manageable kind of traffic. So that's how the roundabout is looking there. But traffic moving at a really slow pace on the other side of Mombasa Road before you come through the roundabout. Now, when I mention Mombasa Road, it's actually just a road in Mombasa City. So at least it looks like the better part of, major parts along this route, slightly past the roundabout, not so bad, traffic moving at a really fast pace. There was this one area where there was heavy kind of traffic in the earlier on segments, and this is around Ronald Gala Road, just as you leave the roundabout, and it looks like the situation is still the same around this area. But again, if you can remember, I had told you earlier, which I still mentioned, is that this is again one of those also busy areas, given the fact that, just next to a police station there. So clearly quite a number of activities around those specific areas. And it looks like in areas where, there's quite a number of activities, either it's next to a police station, a bus terminus, next to a footbridge, or, companies and industries, the kind of traffic often tends to really be, quite unbearable, especially in the early morning hour. And clearly it is no different around this area. But at least along or in major parts around the same area, yes, in as much as there's traffic, but I can tell you for sure it's not that, heavy kind of traffic gridlock. So again, it just means that yes, whatever purpose it was meant to serve in regards to traffic reduction flow, looks like that is really serving its purpose well. But then again, also just as I mentioned, the different bodies designated at least to continue expanding major roads in Mombasa City just mentioned that this project or process will take a period of 4 years. In the areas in which they haven't yet commenced, they haven't mentioned when it will start, but at least for areas such as Makupa, around Digo Road as well, these are areas where the projects are already complete and opened up to the public, and we can clearly see just from our map how traffic is doing not that bad around this specific areas. Also just next to Makupa Boys Secondary School, also again moving at a really fast pace, no traffic at all. So this is how it's looking like in terms of traffic this morning. We've just been trying to focus on what has been happening in Mombasa City in terms of traffic, given the fact that there's still ongoing projects being done in this city, at least to make it easy for pedestrians, make it easy for both vehicles, both public as well as private. But as far as traffic is concerned, this is how it's looking like in Mombasa City.
Thank you for staying with us. I am a genuine boy. If you are just joining us, don't worry. You are right in time for the last interview for today's program. And this is all about the lifestyle segment for the day. And today we're going to be having a conversation around makeup and the makeup industry. But before we get to that, just want to appreciate you all who are talking to us via our Twitter platform. I see Didi Polo, Willie G, Daniel Owange, Daniel Osiemo. I also see Mercy there tuned in. Thank you so much for being with us. Kikuvi Kienze, thank you so much for talking to us. Karan Venture, we appreciate you for choosing to start your morning with us. The only way to start your morning, this is on Good Morning Kenya, as well as Mwangi Maina. Thank you so much for staying with us.
A long time. For me, it got me to a point of being stressful, being depressed. I don't want to ask my parents for money. I want to show them, by the way, I have this covered. I got it. Yeah. Everything is under me. So I really loved to do my own makeup. Even when I was back in high school, I used to find myself just doing somebody's eye pencil and they just love it. They come, they tell me, I just want to do this lip gloss, but there's a way you do it that's different.
You were the plug.
I was the plug, but I wish I knew it back then.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have gone to school. So later on, I'm now pregnant. I'm confused. I told my dad I'm pregnant and he told me, congratulations. That shows you're very fertile. I'm telling you, I cried. I cried and I was hoping he would scold me. He did not. So I said, because he's not scolded me, I'm not going to ask him for money. Let me figure out something I can do. By then, this boyfriend who's not supporting me told me, have you ever thought of doing makeup? Because you're really good at doing it on yourself, you might as well as do it for music videos. I could introduce you to 1, 2, 3 people. So that is the point where I said, what else am I doing? I'm now pregnant. Nobody's going to employ me at 3 months pregnant. So I have to figure out a way between now and the time the baby is here. So I started doing makeup. I got a very nice first gig. I was doing makeup for a runway show.
Ooh.
Yes. So they were supposed to pay me 50,000. Here's the trick. I didn't have any products. Remember, I'm green. I don't know how to do makeup. By then, I didn't know even there was YouTube for me to go and learn how to do makeup. And by then, nobody really appreciated makeup as an art. So I borrowed my father 7,000 Kenya shillings. Nikaenda Du Bois, uko downtown. Nikanunua what I could get because I realized eyes, I need eye pencil and concealer. Like I bought what I thought would work for me.
Yes.
I went for the gig. So I didn't know I'm supposed to ask for deposits. I didn't know I'm supposed to have a contract for the client to sign. So the day of the gig, I do the makeup. So it was an overnight gig. So when the morning reaches, I look for the client who gave me the job to pay me my money. I'm telling you, alikuwa amesharudi Nigeria. So
left was up.
Yes, he's nowhere to be seen. Everyone is there moving around, trying to wind up. It's been a long night. I'm there trying to look for someone who needs to pay me 50,000. And I don't even have anything to show that he owes me money. I cried. I called my father. I called my brother. I'm telling them, don't you think we should go to the police and report? And they're asking me, what are we going to report? At this point, I felt like, this is it for me. I'm done. I'm done.
And that was your first major gig into this industry?
Yes. I was in, and I was in big. So my brother called me, and I'm like, you have to know a way. You have to know something I can do to get my money back. I owe dad already 7,000. Even though his family, at least I can't start my hustle with debts.
Yeah.
So he just told me, Faith, if at all everyone was to pay me my debts today, I would comfortably sit down in the house for more than 1.5 years, and I'd still come out and still have money to keep me going. All I'm trying to tell you is, if you're here for the money, you will not last. It's the passion that will take you to a next level, and it will keep you hustling.
And what did that make you think about yourself and you being in this craft? Were you in it for the right reasons?
At that point, I actually thought about it. At first, I was like, Apana, this guy is not telling me the right answers. He should tell me, let's go to the cops, let's go report.
Let's take action.
You know. So I thought about it for a few days. And remember, at that time, after I've lost my first gig and my brother is telling me not to give up, remember I'm still pregnant. I had just gone for my second trimester, I was in my second trimester, the 5th month. So I had just left the clinic. I was walking around town and I started cramping. So I thought it's normal cramps. I went home. My sister-in-law back then said, probably the baby is turning, that's why she's cramping. But the cramping was too much. I think it was because I had a series of disappointments, a disappointing boyfriend who doesn't...
Stress levels.
Yes, They were just high. They were high. So I was taken to hospital. I labored for 3 days, and on the 3rd day, I miscarried. So I've miscarried, I've lost my baby. I don't have a boyfriend. The gig I thought would sustain me, I've been conned.
Yeah.
So I sat in the house for, I think, 3 weeks, thought about what next to do. How do I go about it? And then one day I get a call from, she's a TV personality as well, Jackie Matubia. She tells me, I'm working for this TV station and they're looking for a makeup artist. Do you think you want to come and try? But for a start, they're not paying you, they're not taking you on board as their staff.
Full-time,
You're coming in as a reliever because the current makeup artist is taking a leave for 14 days. Would you be willing to come and step in? I said yes. I was really willing to start afresh. So at this point, I told my dad about it. He told me, if this is what you really want to do after all you've gone through, just go for it. You have my full support. And he's walked with me through my makeup journey up to this day.
Today.
He's my to-go person. He's literally my boyfriend. So I went to the TV station. I worked for 21 days. They paid me. Come January, they said, we've decided to let go of the other makeup artist. We've decided to give you the job. I was happy. I was really happy. And at this point is when I decided, you know what? Wake up, go to work, go on YouTube, learn those tutorials like never before. I never knew this brush goes where, this goes where.
And that brings me to this aspect of learning to improve on your skill. And looking at the makeup industry, more so, we want to look good.
Yes, we do.
But we don't always want to invest the necessary time, money, the necessary resources that are needed when it comes to investing. And looking at makeup artists, some just want to wake up and make it.
Yes.
What did that teach you, learning the fact that, you love this craft, but you don't have the necessary skills to get you to that level that you want to?
What I learned is for you to make it, you really have to work hard. And you don't not work hard in a fast way. You have to work hard slowly, one step at a time. There's a movie I watched. It was about marathon runners. So the students were trying to run fast to get to the end. But the trainer was telling them, it's not about getting to the end. It's about being consistent with the time you use from here to the end that will get you to the end quite fast. So for me, what I've learned throughout these years that I've been doing makeup is you need to be consistent, you need to be persistent, and at the end of the day, you need to really do research. Every day is a learning day. I might be seated here as a makeup artist, but I'm not going to lie to you. Today when I go back to my makeup studio, I'm going to learn one thing. So it's a matter of one step at a time, one step
building
at a time.
On the skills that you already have.
And the more you practice, the more you master your craft.
All right.
Yes.
Did you have a mentor or someone who was guiding you through this makeup journey that, somebody who is already there, has been there and knows better and is just helping you, holding your hand along the journey?
When I got to the TV station, the lady who was there, the previous makeup artist, what she did was not, I wouldn't say was help me, but at least she guided me. She told me, by the way, this brush goes to the face, this one goes to the eye, this one goes to the day. She didn't break it down for me. So after being told that is when I had to just go the extra mile. You know when they say when you go to school, the teacher gives you probably 40%, the 60 is up to you.
Yeah.
It's a real thing.
Yeah.
So the teacher used to tell me, this brush goes here, this brush goes here, and leaves it at that. How you hold the brush, how you choose what product goes where, is something I had to go an extra mile to learn.
Now, putting together your brand, your shop, your house together, how did you go about that? How long did it take you to just even get to a point where you have your own studio?
I recently got my own studio 2 months ago. Back in when I started doing makeup, let me backdate it kidogo.
Yes.
When I started doing makeup in 2014, that was basically trial and error. 2015, 16, and 17.
How do you go about it?
First and foremost, it's so wrong to enter or to get a studio blindly. When I talk in terms of blindly, I mean you need to have set a clientele base. Clients that you know, come rain or sunshine, they will definitely walk into your makeup studio. For me, look at it this way. From 2014, 15, 16, 17, it's been 5, 6 years, give or take. In those 6 years, I've gotten clients. I have clients who are reliable, one. Secondly, I realized there is no need of you walking to my store and asking me to do your makeup, and I use product X. And then I send you to shop Y to purchase the product. How about after doing your makeup, I sell the same product to you? It's a plus for me. So apart from the makeup charge you've paid, you'll also pay for a product. Apart from that, I've also managed to venture into skincare. So whereby I take you through your skincare regime from the time you wake up in the morning, how you cleanse your face, how you tone it, to the point whereby you still use my makeup product. So give or take, a makeup service probably is $20. But if I include the skincare before the makeup and after the makeup, in a day, you can give me close to $100. So that basically has been my to-go item, because as I said, my business is the makeup tower. So I want to be a build-up. From the moment you wake up, everything you use on your face, to the time you come to the shop and tell me, I want to look like person XYZ, and your skincare routine has not been matching. So I have to walk you through the moment you wake up to the moment you sleep, so that when you do your makeup, it's flawless and you get it right.
Absolutely. Because we walk around Nachkigalde, you're like, chick, do you have a mirror? Do you have friends?
You see?
Let's start there. And we just want to also hear from you as a makeup artist. You know, you have seen all the makeup blunders that you could possibly see from our young ladies.
Yes.
And arguably so, unatukanga ukijiona kitu. Umejipaka makeup unajiona leo. Nina wakunywa kuwakunywa. You look good, but in reality, you have gone about the application process wrongly. You have chosen the wrong products. And we just want to hear from you when it comes to the makeup in itself. And let's just start with choosing the proper colors for our skin.
Yes.
So many ladies will go wrong with that. The face is one color, the neck is a different color, the chest is a different color. And arguably, so you could be having pigmentation issues, but when it comes to choosing a color that is good for your skin, which part do you test it against? We see wrists, we see jaws, we see chest, we see neck. As a makeup artist, which is the way to go?
Personally, before I get to which part you use, the problem when it comes to pigmentation is when you're exfoliating your skin, and I always tell my clients this, when you're masking, when you're scrubbing, you should scrub from your face to your chest area so that you have an even skin tone. If you do that consistently for about 2-3 weeks, the shade will be the same. So take that home. Secondly, most people prefer to test their foundations on their hands. But if I put my hand against my face, is slightly different.
Yes.
So remember this. When you're doing your foundation, I prefer testing it on the cheek. These areas that get hit by the sun. And if I do a foundation here and blend it down, it should be able to match. So personally for me, I test it on my clients' faces. Yes, especially the cheek area. Because you'll realize if your cheek is well contoured, the inner bit is deep and it's dark. So you have to do it properly at the cheek, yes.
All right.
Yes.
So every artist has their own way.
Yes, they do.
But preferably, it should be areas that are in direct contact with the sun because they are the most exposed.
Exactly.
Now, learning to differentiate between legit and bootleg products. I'm sure you've had to learn the hard way when it comes to purchasing some of these products.
God, yes.
How did you get to a point where you're actually able to tell the legit from the bootleg product?
First and foremost, you don't just go buying products blindly.
Dubois?
Dubois? You know, you go to Dubois, let's say a concealer, this concealer. If you go to Dubois, the concealer goes for 200 shillings. But if you buy from a legit shop, it's from 400 shillings to 650 shillings. Question is, you don't want to invest. You'll go use Dubois products on your face. You start getting acne. You say the makeup artist failed you. And it's because out of your 30 days, you come to the makeup artist once and say she's failed you. And all the 29 other days,
you've been using
the wrong products. So first things first, do your research. Go to social media, buy your data bundles. I'm sure everyone can afford data. Good. Buy your data bundles, differentiate, just type. What's the difference between a fake and an original concealer? I'll just choose a concealer for this brand. If you look at it, just have a look at it. The number is on top of the name. The fake is the other way around.
The name is on top of the product number?
Yes.
Oh, wow. That is so easy.
It's so easy. So you just Google the name of the product and look at the details of the brand. Again, don't go buying products from people you cannot trust. Go to trusted stores. That's why for me, for my foundations, I prefer importing them from Nigeria because there's so many counterfeits in the industry. You wouldn't know which is an original one, which is a fake one. It's only after you apply that you're like, this pigmentation, actually the coverage is off. So this is a fake. And you've already bought probably a stock of 10,000.
Imagine.
Why? So for me, I prefer and I always advise my clients, if you want a good foundation, I import my makeup from Nigeria. And there's no copy-paste here.
And especially with makeup. I don't know. There's recently one lady that I follow on Instagram, and she actually put out a video of how counterfeit makeup, what it did to her face.
Yes.
And this thing can mess your skin to levels that are irreversible. So ladies, when it comes to getting makeup products, save if you have to buy that legit foundation, bottle of foundation, or that legit powder, eyeshadow, eyeliner. These are sensitive areas of your face. You don't want to walk around with patches on your skin because of problems you brought onto yourself. All right? Now, let's talk about learning how to apply foundation.
Yes.
Yeah? We all, kuna wenye wanakuanga waku dab, wengine sugua,
wengine paka hivi kama mafuta.
The basic skills when it comes to doing this craft. How, someone who is especially starting out with makeup, how do they go about it?
Personally, for me, I normally tell my clients to invest in good brushes.
Brush or it's called a beauty blender.
A beauty blender. Either. I can use both. I prefer using both. I start first of all with a brush. I spread it around your face, or rather your skin, and then I use a beauty blender to make sure everything is blended in.
Okay.
But it's always important to have a brush because as compared to a beauty blender, I don't normally use beauty blenders all the time. When it comes to a beauty blender, you see, when I'm washing this brush, I wash it in circular motion, and you see the inside is very clean. But my question is, that sponge, huko ndani?
Nani anaosha? And also, before we even continue further with when it comes to the application process, the proper tools for the proper job.
Yes.
And I'm speaking from experience. Mimi nimetumia sponge moja kupaka foundation na kupaka powder.
Ooh-wee. Okay.
Choosing the right tool for the proper job.
Okay.
Tell us a bit about the brushes. You have the basics there.
Yes.
What is for what?
Actually, I have 4 brushes only. These are basic brushes for you to have.
Okay.
So this is called a spoolie brush. You just use it to brush your eyebrows, just to make sure zimepangana vizuri. And then you do your normal eye pencil. And then this is called an angled brush. Angled brush is used for concealing the eyebrows. So the way my eyebrows are properly defined, it's this brush. So you slowly use it using the concealer. You use it to define.
Okay.
After that, you can just blend in your eye area, just the concealer and everything. And then this brush. This is a powder brush. So basically, if you don't intend to do eyeshadow or you don't want eye makeup that's too much, you use this brush and some kidogo powder, loose powder. Loose powder, it can be compact powder, brand of your choice. You just use it to fill your eye area so that, have you ever seen someone who's walking throughout the day and then akifunga hivi macho unaona ka crease ni kama ka foundation unasikia nika utamfanya kuja tutoi hapa. So yeah, you use this brush with kidogo powder just to set the eye area to make it look like it's properly done. Now, this brush, it's a magical brush. This is what prop does. Irrespective of who you're meeting, watajua, okay, she took her time to prepare herself today.
So these are the basics for anyone who is venturing into this makeup journey.
Yes.
Good brushes, a good foundation. I can see a compact powder, concealer, 3 types of lipsticks, a liner, and you're good.
And you're good to go.
Na mascara.
Na mascara.
Na eyeliner.
Yes. And then if you want probably kidogo, you can contour your face, uku kwa cheek area so that, you know, have you ever seen when we take photos, we're like, you know that pouting? You don't have to pout once you do your contour. And then probably a highlighter to make your cheeks and nose glow kidogo. And you're good to go. And you don't need a big bag. All this can fit in my Katanika clutch and look like I have everything figured out.
Because you have everything figured out.
Exactly.
We are talking about makeup artistry. You know, it is something that we ladies love. We love makeup. We always want to look good. But are we investing it in it in the right way? We have with us Faith Heho in the studio this morning. Tell us a bit about more what we need to do. Brushes. It needs to be gentle on your skin when you are using it, all right? Go for gentle products, go for gentle tools when it comes to how you are using your products. Now, we are out of time, but I just want you to talk to other young makeup artists who are looking to venture into this journey. They have, they second guess themselves. They're not sure about where to start, how to start, or when to start. What's your advice to them this morning?
My advice to upcoming makeup artists is, first and foremost, dedicate your plans to God. Because at the end of the day, if He doesn't have your back, nobody's got your back. Secondly, do as much research as possible. For me, I do beauty, which is per se, I glam you up for your photo shoots, for your weddings. There are other makeup artists who do special effects. There are others who do body art. So you also need to try everything to at least find your niche and also need to understand what works best for you. Number 3, don't be in a rush to invest in anything. Walk to a store that samples products, buy a product that you can sample on yourself first, get to understand, will this work for my clients? Will it serve the purpose for me and 2 other people who are not my skin tone? Number 4, use your money wisely. Let me tell you, as a makeup artist, money comes and goes real quick.
Okay.
I can sit here and live here and get everything today I need, and at the end of the day have nothing. So take your time, plan yourself, wake up early, do your research, pray, and above all, be passionate, not because of the money, be passionate because you love what you're doing.
Love what you do. Faith Heho, founder of the Makeup Tower. Thank you so much for coming through.
Thank you.
Give us your social handles once more.
On Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, the Makeup Tower. Yes.
All right. So check her out if you are an up-and-coming makeup artist, and your gender doesn't matter, by the way, when it comes to this. It's the creative industry. if you are a young lady or gent who's interested in this field, check her out. I'm sure she'll be willing to offer the support that she can as and when she can in the capacity that she's able to. Thank you so much, Faith. We wish you the absolute best with your journey.
Thank you so much.
All right. Now, we are almost at the tail end of Good Morning Kenya, but before we get to that point, I can see Ndi on the other side of steel. What's going on? All right, we'll be checking in with her in a bit, Doreen, as we almost wind up today's program. But thank you so much for staying with us. Remember, the hashtag is still Good Morning Kenya. My handle is at Jane Wamboi. Our official station handle is at KBC Channel 1. At Doreen Arange, at Ray Manyara, and at Sam Dublin Jorge are our individual handles. And as we get to close the program, we just want to remind you of the discussions that we had today. We had an interview with Regina Manyara, who will be coming up in a minute to just give us a recap about that. This has been a discussion about makeup artistry as a whole, as well as a viewpoint, just looking at the post BBI reveal here in Kenya and how we are doing as a country, the proposals that have been put in that document, and what we need to consider before we get to pass it as a whole. So that is what we have been discussing this morning. I don't know if Dee, you are ready with your side of things, your end of things this morning.
On this side of things.
On that end of things.
And there we are.
Yeah, there we go.
All right, so I just want to sample social media very, very quickly. And I think I want to start with Facebook because there was a lot of feedback there. And I'm seeing Victor Marcia saying that he is actually watching the show from Elgeyo Siaya town. Thank you, Victor, for watching. We appreciate your feedback. There's one asking, Anthony asking, actually, what is BBI? I think this is in regards to the conversation that Sam was having earlier on. Still, Victor, I've read actually that one again. There's another one from Ibrahim saying, watching live from Kirondon. Asante sana, Ibrahim. We appreciate all your feedback. And a lot of feedback, especially from Facebook, is just our viewers saying that they are watching the show from different places of different actual counties, different towns, and they are loving the show. And we appreciate you for watching the show. Coming to Twitter at Trendy Wendy's, actually she's saying, share your eye makeup tips and tricks. Some of us need all the help we can get. And Wamboi, if you can just ask our guest Faith this morning, are there any tips and tricks for eye? Maybe, okay, for you Wamboi, since we are all ladies, and at least once in a while we get to do these things. Did you feel like there's any tips and tricks for eyes? If you want to do your eyeshadows, your eyeliner, or you just go in with it the way you feel like. Kuna two tricks hapa na pale, because that was the question actually on Twitter.
Kunato, and YouTube is your friend.
Teacher YouTube.
When it comes to akoka eyeliner, before you wing, unachora akoka line hadi unakata maadui nayo. You need to learn how to be able to do that. But a trick is using cell tape.
Wow, that's for the eyeliner, for that cat thing. Kale kakitu kanakwanga huku chini, unakachora
macho, unaiweka hapo, unapitisha hapo alafu unakaleta ndani.
So that it can be crisp. But also, by the I liked that part for eyeshadow, but I think it was more of educative even for me. Before you go in with the whole foundation, at least unaweka tu powder kidogo huku. Unajua, usikae na kaline ka eyeshadow kamekatika hivi unashanga ukifunga macho unakaa hia. What is happening to the eyes? So I think this some of the, even as the question was there, what are some of the makeup tips, makeup tricks? I think that goes also in line with it. You just don't go in the way you feel like. There's some things here and there that you can observe. But at least that's what we have on our socials this morning on Facebook as well as Twitter. And like I said, we appreciate your feedback. Keep telling us what you feel, what you think about the show. Your questions as well. Yes, Wambo.
All right, and actually we were supposed to touch on lashes, but we didn't do that, but we're going to have her sometime again soon to talk about lashes, and I want to bring Regina in here.
Hapo kwa lashes.
Ikikuja kuvaa nazitanga mabawa za macho.
Unafunga macho unasikia
voila. Lashes, ukiblink adui ana disappear.
Yeah, it's not only Red Bull that gets you wings, man. You can also have your eyes and lashes do that for you. But today, well, I didn't have my eyelashes. I would also want to know how to clean the lashes, because it's quite something. Every time I try to pick off the glue, I end up missing my lashes. So I'd also wanted to learn a hack or two in regard to that particular bit. And that about having a magical brush, I think we all need a magical brush. We need to invest more. You gotta look more. I say image is everything and thirst is nothing. Now, in as far as, wrapping up this conversation, we're going to be, as KBC Channel 1, we're going to be focusing on a few stories, and I'm sure you're already on social media and Twitter. Trending in Kenya is hashtag Tanzania decides. KBC Channel 1 is going to be keeping